thanks to all the organizers. This is a wonderful series to have, and the fact that it's on YouTube is fantastic. I have been, well, first of all, yes, I'm Art. That last name, it's Krupicz. It's Polish. I think it got cut off when my grandfather came. It's like a crew cut and a baseball pitch. I won't hold it against you if we're talking down the road and it comes out wrong. That's perfectly okay. But anyway, I have been hiding out at Nevada State Parks for the last 10 years. So I've been in Nevada for 20 years and ended up at state parks managing all of their cultural resources for the last 10. And I'm kind of in an interesting situation because I know a lot of folks in Nevada, but there's even more folks I don't know. I was raising the kids for our first 10 years, which I'll get into briefly a little bit in a little bit. Um, and then at parks, we have our 27 state parks units for all of us. But we're kind of in a little bubble there, not good or bad, but I work with neighbors somewhat. But yeah, I've been kind of in Nevada, but not popping up too many places. So I really appreciate this opportunity to kind of, I guess, introduce myself, reintroduce myself to those of you I have met, and I'll just basically go through a little bit about where I came from, not too long, but sometimes I know I like hearing from folks, professionals, volunteers, students. I like hearing how they came to this quirky field of archaeology, preservation, architectural history, et cetera, et cetera. So we're definitely not doing mainstream stuff in some ways. So it's fun to hear. So I'll give a little bit about that. I'll talk a little bit about where I see what I want to focus on and where I see the SHPO going, and then I'll wrap up here. And then, yes, I want to save some time for questions. Absolutely. So I guess to start, I don't have fancy graphics. I was working on my SHPO day job here, so getting oriented. I've only been in here a couple of months. It's been fantastic, by the way. Thank you to everyone who has made it so. It's been a real pleasure to kind of be in the middle of things and in the mix of things. So I will share my screen. Yes, the graphics aren't too fancy. I am literally going to pull up a map. I figure historic preservation, especially archaeology. I'm an archaeologist by training. We're very spatial. We love our maps. So I'm going to keep this map up here for a little bit. Let me make sure it's sharing. Here we go. And I'll just bounce around a little as I explain how I kind of got to this, again, this quirky field that we're in. We'll kind of use the map a little bit. And I'm not going to belabor the bio, but again, I've been kind of hiding. So anyway, I am a Gen Xer, born in the mid '70s. I kind of came out wired as a good kid. I want everyone to get along. And then, of course, in the '70s, you have the original Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, the album Free to Be, You and Me, et cetera, et cetera. That whole '70s vibe. We have dark movies with very idealistic kids programming. I ate all that up. And anyway, so, and then as I got older, I was in a restaurant family. So I was, I'm not going to go into too fine grained detail, but, I was all very idealistic and also very aware of real world pressures, to make a business work, to put the food out, to work with people, et cetera, et cetera. I mention those two things because I will be getting kind of back to that. That's something I kind of came out that way, and that's how I came up, and I still have those strains running even now and how I look at preservation, et cetera. And I'll get back to that. Um, I started out here in Pennsylvania, northwest Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania, between Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Buffalo, Steel Town, Steel Belt, part of the country. And I was always dreaming of Erie was fantastic. My family was amazing. Uh, but I always was dreaming. At that time, I was dreaming of big cities, and we went to New York and Toronto, and a lot of our family was in DC. So we got to see big cities, and I thought that was really cool. I went to college down in at the University of Maryland, right about there, um, and I didn't know what I wanted to do for the first couple of years. I just took psychology, and then I realized I didn't want to be in a cubicle. Not that psychologists are in cubicles all the time, but I wanted to. Once I was in the city, I started dreaming of mountains and the big outdoors and adventure. So honestly, how I got to archaeology, um, very transparent about this. Uh, Before my junior year, I sat down in my bedroom in the summer and I perused. I just went one page at a time through the course catalog looking for something cooler than psychology. And I had liked archaeology as a kid and all of that. And I looked at different things. And yes, long story short, I thought, you know what, I'll try anthropology. That's where archaeology is. And then as I got into it, I realized it was a good choice through my classes and all. It was really fantastic. So, and that only grew over the years. But I just make that point because sometimes we find what we love through the college course catalog. I suppose it's not always very glamorous. Um, Anyway, I got my BA. I met my future wife um, in Pennsylvania. We did field school. If you can see my cursor, it's not too far from where I grew up in the Allegheny National Forest. I and my spouse to be were very fortunate to work with James Adavasio of Meadowcroft fame, if you will. And his precision was wonderful. His precision is actually what got me my first job. I was looking to be a field tech after I got my BA, and um, I was doing the interview, and then they found out I did field school with Jim Adavasio, and they basically hired me on the spot because of his precision and all. So I'm forever grateful to him for his education, his field education for me. Um, I also want to give a shout out to Mark Leone, rest in peace, longtime University of Maryland um, uh, professor, faculty. I didn't talk to him much at the University of Maryland, but literally in the last week before graduation, the last week of classes, my senior year for my BA, we crossed each other in the hall, and he said, "Art, what are your plans?" And I didn't even realize he even remembered my name. I think I took just one or two classes with him the year before. And I said, I'm not sure. I hadn't got into grad school. That's another thing. I didn't get into grad school the first time I tried. I wanted to go work in the subarctic and the Arctic regions. And my grades were like, okay, they weren't really grad school good yet. So anyway, I gave kind of canned essays. And so I didn't get into grad school that first time around. So Dr. Leone asked me what I wanted to do. I said, I'll probably go into CRM. He said, I'm going to call around, see what's available. I'll call you back in a few days. And he didn't set me up with a job, but he helped me. This was early days of the internet, mid 90s. So he helped me out. So my point again is that, you know, some things, our paths are not always direct and they're not always glamorous. They're a bit circuitous. You have to figure things out. And so that was kind of how I started essentially. Um, Got into CRM. So that's how I kind of found archaeology. I found my passion within archaeology while I was doing about a year of CRM with the R. Christopher Goodwin and Associates. I believe now they're Goodwin and Associates. That was a wonderful experience. Went all over my cursor. I was all over the Mid-Atlantic. We went down all over the South, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, lots of adventures. Went down way down here to Vieques Island off of Puerto Rico. That was an adventure. That was one of my first Indiana Jones moments. Tarantulas up your pants and snakes and endless using your machete through the jungle, etc. We found nothing, by the way, at all over several months. It was the most one of my biggest adventure to that point, and yet it was basically a negative survey, as we say. So there you go. But it was fun. But while I was doing CRM, um, I noticed all the wonderful people, archaeologists around me, at least back in again in the mid '90s, these wonderful folks. Not all of them were good at talking to the public, landowners, etc. So I kind of found that I had a knack for it. So I started I found that I wanted to go into what we call community archaeology, public archaeology, et cetera. And so when I applied to a master's program the next time, I did get accepted at several places, and I ended up at the University of Arkansas, which was absolutely wonderful. They let me work at a museum. They let me do the archaeology, like the hardcore archaeology study, but also mix in work with the public through museums, et cetera. So that was really wonderful. I worked with Hester Davis there, just a legend and fantastic. And it was a real honor, a lot of good folks there. So I really appreciated that. And that got me into site stewards. I started doing site stewards. Notice I'm moving gradually out west. So now we're in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I was fortunate enough to work with the Historic Preservation Division there. And yeah, I started up their Site Watch program, their Site Steward program. Site stewards are dear to my heart. They just, it's a wonderful, it just hits all the marks that we would want an archaeology, preservation, history program to do. I think there's a reason they're strong and vibrant, like all over the country. Just fantastic. And that was a real joy. And then we moved on. Archaeologists often are a bit peripatetic. We move around quite a bit. And so, long story short, we ended up about 20 years ago back here in, well, not for us back here, for the first time in Nevada. And it was ironic. I had worked with James Adavasio, who has done a lot of important work out in the Great Basin with textiles and perishables, et cetera. But I didn't work with Doc Adavasio in Nevada. I worked with him back in Pennsylvania. I also had the opportunity to do excavations in New Mexico near Santa Fe with the American Museum of Natural History, David Hurst Thomas and Loran Pendleton Thomas. I worked with them too, but again, not in Nevada, not in where in a sense they're best known, but in the Southwest. But all of it was a blast, and I just keep getting more experience working with different programs, and then I guess my capstone, I guess you could say in academic terms, was working with Nevada State Parks. Nevada State Parks is a fantastic uh, entity, a fantastic group of people, a great culture. I really enjoyed my 10 years with them and I learned a lot. I was basically my own cultural resource division there. That's where I got to work with a land manager, really get to know Nevada's sites and environments, etc. Um, Gosh, writing all the reports, doing the graphics. I joked that I was like my own CRM firm because I did the background research, the editing, formatting, everything you need for these big reports that we put out to send to the SHPO. So anyway, yeah, it's been a fun adventure. Met a lot of great people. I'm meeting even more great people now. It's been really good. Um, and I hesitated for a long time at coming back to SHPO. My spouse was there. For those of you who don't know, my spouse is Karen DeDefor, and she is the NIVCRIS manager at SHPO. Well, she was at SHPO. Bear with me. She's still working with SHPO, but she's not at SHPO. So she runs a fantastic program where you can see, well, those who are permitted to or can see sites buildings, cultural resources throughout Nevada, all the surveys that have been done. It's a huge advantage. It really speeds things up when we're trying to get projects done, when we're trying to consult, when we're trying to help the economy move ahead, et cetera, but we still want to do right by our resources. NIVCRIS is a big help in being aware of what's been done and where and what old places do we have, what places are gone, what reports, what information do we have about them. Anyway, Karen, with me moving into the SHPO position, Karen is shifting over. She's staying with NIVCRIS, but she's shifting over to our IT department within the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, which is actually a better fit. That had been bubbling for quite a while, a number of years. That idea of her shifting. So that happened, and I'm shifting over to serve as the preservation officer, which again is just a thrill. I've been in a couple months, and it's been fantastic so far. I still have a lot of people to meet. A lot of our volunteer stewards. I'm going to be coming to our events as we have them throughout the year, our potlucks, and even some trainings and all that. So you'll be seeing me for sure. Um, I've done all the programs in SHPO. I'm looking for over the years. I kind of skimmed over it, but I basically worked with all the programs that SHPO offers, from the grants to the consultations, etc. And I enjoy SHPOs because SHPOs are kind of an odd entity in one sense. They're visible, and the public knows to call us. But on the other hand, our real work is kind of in the background with preservation. We give funds in the form of grants, for example, to rehabilitate buildings. Um, but we're not doing the rehab. Agencies and municipalities, counties consult with us to confirm that they are accounting for their historic resources in a modern best practice kind of way. And but we're not really out there. We're not a museum. We don't have a. I had a caller today. A member of the public called me and asked if we, the SHPO, have a like a public history center, or a interpretive center, which is a great question, but we don't, because we do kind of operate in the background. We kind of fill in gaps, etc. And I enjoy that. I like helping others. Going back to my Sesame Street days, I like helping others get stuff done, helping others achieve what they want to achieve in their communities, etc. So even though it's a bit bureaucratic and it's a little hard to define what a SHPO is, I really enjoy that work. And yeah, so you get the idea. Okay, I'm going to shift over a little bit about what I want to do at the SHPO. Again, my graphics aren't super fancy. I'm relying on our web page and its rotating uh, selection of beautiful images. But anyway, uh, so first of all, what can a SHPO do? Getting back to what I was just talking about, there's certain things a SHPO can do and certain things SHPOs don't do, in a sense. As I already said, we support people on the ground through grants, tax credits, site stewards, volunteers helping people engage, and several other programs. The National Register, State Register nominations, we help guide those through the federal, they're not hurdles, but the federal requirements for a place to actually get on the National Register. So we work with all of that. We help people do these things. And that's something I really want to emphasize, is those public facing aspects that we at the SHPO do have. We have a team of wonderful experts who are available to help you do what you want to do out on the ground. We also do the SHPO, of course. There's no profit in denying it. We're known for being the little office that everybody has to go through when you have a project, whether you need new windows on an old building, or you have a massive power line going across the state for hundreds and hundreds of miles. Everybody goes through the SHPO to get our take on how they are accounting for cultural resources? Are they considering cultural resources? Um, and that is broadly the process of consultation. And we can't, this is important, might be getting in the weeds a little, but my view, I'm not the only one with this view, but SHPO cannot tell agencies and municipalities what to do. We basically make sure that we're basically the conscience of Nevada's citizens. We are making sure that agencies are adhering to best practice in terms of architectural history, archaeology. You know, when there's a project, are they doing the proper surveys by current modern standards? Are they following through on the guidelines that they themselves set before they started? We watch all that. I kind of think of SHPOs, at least in terms of when it comes to consultation, as like a newspaper's ombudsman. The ombudsman basically makes sure, I mean, in a very long story short, an ombudsman make sure that the newspaper is following journalistic standards broadly. And if a journalist, or if they publish a article, pardon me, and that article, they're not using proper sources or enough sources, or they're not quoting people properly, or all the different standards that professional journalists adhere to, the ombudsman calls the paper out on that, and acknowledges when they're doing well. So in some sense, when it comes to consultation, I see SHPOs like that. We just, yeah, like that ombudsman kind of strain or direction, if you will. Okay, so what do I want to do at the SHPO? Um, there's quite a few things. The first thing really is to fill out our staff. We're down several folks, as you've all probably heard. The with the federal budget changing so much the last several months, with the new administration, and it's not political. Whether you agree or disagree, that's fine. But there's a lot of changes in the budget and in historic preservation, and what gets funded and what doesn't, etc. So it's been hard to fill positions. Some SHPOs are actually losing and have already laid off staff, sadly to say. We in Nevada, fortunately, are pretty stable right now, given the relative tumult, I guess you could say. But our budget is solid right now through um, it's basically late September of 2027. So we have a few years that we're stable as I sit here talking to you now. And I'm also hearing, as you may have heard this week, that the um, the Congress, basically both the Senate and the House, have essentially, well, they're not finalized, mind you, but they have their initial budgets, and the funding. I didn't even mention this, but SHPOs have a lot of federal funding. We're not all state funded, and certainly not in Nevada. So federal funding is important. It looks like our funding's going to be, at least it's queuing up. It's not settled. It'll be settled in the fall when they come back from recess. But it's queuing up to. They're going to stabilize our budget beyond 2026. And the way we spend our funds, we in Nevada, it's a little slower, if you will. So long story short, what I'm trying to get at is our budget in Nevada is pretty stable. In fact, dare I say, right now, it's about as stable as it ever is, even in times where the budget isn't so contested. So that is a slightly rosy assessment, but it's accurate. There are, and when I say it's rosy, it's because there are, there could be rescissions and things like that that can affect the budget, but it's queuing up to be pretty stable. So we're really happy about that here at the Nevada SHPO. So, and fingers crossed that it stays that way. And we're working with our management here at DCNR, and we're talking to our elected officials about the importance to Nevada of historic preservation, etc. Um, oh, and by the way, if anyone is qualified and would like to work at the Nevada SHPO, yes, our budget is stable. We have positions in Las Vegas and in Carson City, Reno, Tahoe area. It's a really great place. So spread the word. Um, okay, what else would I like to do at SHPO? I want to get talking more, or boy, that wasn't a very eloquent way to say it, but I'd like to even facilitate as the SHPO and from the SHPO's office, if the community finds it appropriate, to facilitate discussions on how we manage different resources. And I won't go into too much detail, but I want to get more historic context for the physical geographic places in Nevada. A historic context essentially is a history of a place, and it describes what sites on the ground would show or demonstrate that history and what those sites have to be like say a building. What does a building have to have in terms of windows, materials, etc.? Um, what does it have to be able to demonstrate that history? So it helps us narrow down the places we want to save, why we want to save them, what we need to do to keep them maintained going into the future. These historic context documents are really valuable. So I'd like to get more of those going, whether it's funding through our office or working with other entities to make that happen collaboratively. I'm very interested in that. By the way, historic context can also cover themes. It doesn't have to be a geographic place. It could be a theme in Nevada's history, and it explains it and talks about the sites that are important to that theme within history as well. So I'd like to work on getting more context developed. I'd also like to talk about specific resources. For example, roads. Roads in Nevada and around the country. Nevada has a lot of dirt roads, as you know. And it's not necessarily dirt versus paved, but yeah, how do we? And if any CRMers are sitting in, or if you're listening to this later, you'll know where I'm going. But how do we how do we categorize roads? How do we record roads on our site forms? It's a pretty tricky question. At what point does a road? When is it active? If it's not active, uh, is it an archaeology site? When does a road become an archaeology site? When is a road, if it's active, is it worthy of the National Register necessarily? These get tricky pretty quick. So roads are just one example, but I do want to get the community together, whether that's us at the SHPO office taking the lead or helping other entities and all coming together at a conference or a series of meetings, whatever it might be. I do want to think about these tricky resources that we have and how do we really get those managed and get those categorized and then managed. Okay, what else? I want to expand our public programs. I really want people to know the SHPO for consultation is important. It's vital, but I really want the SHPO to be known for their public programs. And like I said earlier, how we can help people do what they feel needs to be done on the ground. That's one of our big strengths, and I want to reinforce that. And we also, by the way, are going to go on a final note there. We're going to go digital in terms of our submissions for consultation. Right now, when an agency has big giant report, or even little ones, but big giant reports, they send they print it off and mail it to us or drop it off in person. We're going to shift that in Nevada soon. Our team is actively working on getting that done. So we're going to increasingly be reaching out to our agency partners, et cetera, and getting that digital submission process settled for Nevada. Okay, I do want to make it before I wrap up. I want to make kind of an idealistic note, and just what we want to do in Nevada with preservation. Uh, this is just my a personal soapbox, but since I have it at least for a little bit tonight, I'll jump on it for a minute. Um, there are a lot of it concerns how we talk about preservation, how we defend or explain preservation in this environment where it's being questioned, and it's okay that it's questioned. In my opinion, it's this is part of a vibrant democracy, a vibrant society. You question you question at least occasionally what we do, why we do it, etc. Um, and I'll just say that I've noticed a lot of folks, and it's natural, I do it too. A lot of folks kind of defend preservation by saying, well, you can't get rid of SHPOs, they're important, or even I dare I say, I'm going to lose my job. There's a lot of jobs being lost in preservation. And while that's important, um, it is people reading the news every day become numb to job losses. We become numb to crime, etc. For better or worse. That's what humans we tend to do that when we see a lot of it. Um, and so what I'm trying to do, I'm not saying this is better or worse. It's just that what I'm trying to do is kind of explain historic preservation in a more humanistic or even, I don't know, humanistic or ethereal or symbolic way. Um, the author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, um, if I'm saying that right, he of the Little Prince, um, is attributed or widely attributed with a quote: "If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, to divide the work and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea." And in the same way, I feel like if we want to defend historic preservation, don't talk of SHPOs and the Section 106 process, or dare I say, lost jobs. I've lost jobs in the past more than once. I know what that's like. But I think it's even more powerful if we remind people of their fascination with the past. And then when they're reminded of their fascination with the past, then they'll yearn for the people and institutions that preserve that past. So I'll get off my soapbox there. But anyway, it's something to consider. It's something I lean towards rather than going towards economic arguments, at least all the time. Again, I'm not arguing against those ways of explaining preservation and its value, but I guess I'm saying more just don't forget our culture is so centered on economics, and you got to make it in this culture for sure. You got to make enough money, et cetera, et cetera. And we tend to go to that first, and that's certainly um, natural and to be expected. But don't forget that humanistic aspect. So, in conclusion, kind of on a related note, I have a kind of a pragmatic conclusion and then more of an existential conclusion. Um, Whether you are a professional, a volunteer, or both, we got into this and we stayed in it essentially because we believe in historic preservation. Our specific motivations may vary. Some of us are into analysis. Um, some of us are into policy, education. You like constructing or rehabbing old buildings, like the physical aspect. Some of us got, like I said, we got into it for the adventure, but we do share a common thread, and that's to do right by cultural resources. The SHPO, by virtue of its various roles in preservation, like I said, we're kind of in the middle of things, behind the scenes, but in the middle of things. We also are a common thread here at the SHPO, and I want the SHPO in a broad symbolic sense to reinforce that commonality that we all share around cultural resources, around preservation. So more practically, what does that mean? I want the Nevada SHPO to collaborate and collaborate a lot, not to mince words or be too eloquent. Um, we're transparent. I always have an open door. I and my staff will always tell it straight. We will be honest. Um, we won't fool anyone. We'll look you straight in the eye, et cetera, et cetera. We are going to respect people. If we have disagreements, it's going to be with understanding. It's not disagreement for disagreement's sake. It is to find a solution that we all can work with, given our constraints or opportunities that any agency or anybody has. And we just, yeah, we want to grow historic preservation in Nevada, but I think we can do it positively and we can do it fairly quickly, dare I say. Is this being recorded? But yes, I think we could do it fairly quickly even. But in any case, I want SHPO to do all that it can, and we're always available to everyone interested in preservation. So, in conclusion, this I wrote down, so bear with me if I don't mean to sound robotic, but over the past 30 years, I've discussed archaeology, architecture, and preservation with thousands of non-professionals, people on the street, people coming up to you on a dig, uh, landowners, you get the idea, people on the street. Based on those interactions, I am quite certain that every human being finds mystery and fascination in history and the past. Everybody. The specific piece of history will be different for different folks. For some, it's an ancient footprint. Others, it's a mid-century building or an arrowhead. You get the idea. But that fascination is a fundamentally human thing. And I would even say it's a spiritual thing, or it's verging on the spiritual, insofar as the past and our historic places involve mystery and a connection to things that are beyond us, beyond ourselves. In other words, people use their place and they use their past to establish their identity and their meaning, both individually and collectively. Historic places are a big part of all of us establishing our identity and our meaning in this world and our meaning of our existence. Our past is a big part of that. Given this, those of us in historic preservation have a very serious task. We define what places and things are maintained and what are not. When we determine what buildings will be rehabilitated or demolished, when we determine that a site is or is not eligible for the National Register, when we decide which historic place we're going to monitor with site stewards for damage or which ones we're not going to monitor. When we do any of that, we are defining what researchers will be able to study in the future. We are defining what the public will see, literally see of their past. What this means is we in historic preservation are establishing the boundaries of meaning and identity for people. We are playing an active role in culture, we're playing an active role in science, and we are making history in our own literal way by defining what is here, what is not here, what places will be saved, what places are not significant, so to speak. You get the idea. So what's the point? History is powerful. However you use it, it can divide people, but it also can bring them together. I am saying that we double down on the latter. Whether you are a professional, a student, a volunteer, or just a fan of history, be proud of what you do, defend what you do, because everyone uses history and place to understand themselves, to create meaning. Any group of people, from a small subculture to whole societies, they will always need history and place, and they will always need others to help preserve and interpret those places. It is our task to understand what those places are for different communities, and it is our task to collaborate and keep learning and look for connection with everyone, regardless of political stripe, et cetera, et cetera. The connection is there, so we must always keep looking. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I told you I'm a 70s kid, and I grew up with Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers. But seriously, that I think we can do a lot. So thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and I think I can take questions. Samantha, will you field this, or do you want me to
Yeah,
go through?
if people want to write their questions in the Q&A or in the chat, I will keep an eye on both.
And if there aren't any questions, that's fine too. I'm always available, and yeah, I'm on the SHPO website. We have our oh, I should stop sharing. Pardon me.
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, it's an honor if there weren't. It means I answered everybody's questions about everything. Wow. Seriously, thank you, everyone. I do appreciate it. Appreciate the time.
We have a couple of people writing in the chat. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, no hurry.
Oh,
Let's see. Oh, I see one coming in. Where is your office? Southern or Northern Nevada? Great question. The answer is both. Um, seriously, I am in most of the SHPO staff are up in Northern Nevada. We're in Carson City, in the Bryan building, kind of in the center of town, right in downtown. But Samantha here is in our southern office at on Vegas Drive. She's in a complex with NDF and state parks next to, oh, is it Lorenzi Park? Am I not? No, no, no. Sorry, it's not
I
Lorenzi.
don't.
Sorry, Vegas
I don't know
Drive.
what it's called actually. To be
Yeah,
honest,
it's a
I've been
big
working there.
park on Vegas Drive, 47,
Yeah.
47. Yep. So yeah, so I'm in Carson City, but Samantha's down south. So we have you covered, and we have on our website all the staff names and contact info. So you can contact who you think is appropriate, and we'll figure out what you need to know. If we don't know it, we'll find the people who do. Thanks, Michelle, for that.
So in the chat, you got a bunch of thanks, great job, from several different people, and then there's a couple of people typing. So
No,
give
we'll
them.
hang out. And if people they want to hang out and do questions, that's great. And if not, that's cool. I appreciate the time on a Friday night. Um, yeah, I feel like, yeah, this wasn't really so much a lecture as more like a fireside chat, if you guys remember those.
So okay, so there's a question from Justin DeMeo. I hear that you're
Oh,
going to get out and about as you start your tenure. What are your top 3 outings, site visits you're most excited to get out to?
oh boy, good question, Justin. Off the top of my head, I have been thinking about this, but I haven't settled. Honestly, I want to explore the built environment in Vegas more. I'm not as familiar as I'd like to be. There's a lot to see, a lot to learn. So that's probably if I had to rank them, I do want to, mostly because I need to get more familiar with the people and the structures, the buildings down there. Uh, Secondly, I want to just broadly get out to north eastern Nevada. I haven't been out, I've been all over Nevada, but not the Northeast. I have not been to Elko in ages. I have not been up to Jarbidge, etc. So I really want to get up there for sure. And thirdly, honestly, it's not really a place. I really do want to get out and meet everyone. SHPOs, um, I don't mean to speak for them all over the country, but because we're behind the scenes and we do a lot of consultations, again, SHPOs in all states and territories, et cetera, um, we don't get out a lot all the time or as much as we'd often like. So I really the third one is just getting out and getting real face time with everyone, shaking hands, spending a few minutes or a few hours. It sounds cliche, but I honestly mean it. I want to hear what people are concerned about. I want to hear what they're thinking about, where things are trending in specific places, and just yeah, just be tooling around. I want to put a lot of miles on our little. We have this little tin can state car that we rent from Motor Pool. I want to put a lot of miles on it. So thank you, Justin.
All right. So you have one question about your background. Is it
Oh
Spring
yeah,
Mountain Ranch?
yes, it is. Spring Mountain Ranch, the
Yeah.
beautiful, all my, because I was at state parks for 10 years, a lot of my backgrounds are state parks. So that's another reason, with all respect to state parks, it's another reason I have to get out to take pictures and kind of represent everybody when I'm on my meetings. But yes, it is Spring Mountain Ranch. Yep.
So, um, Michelle Burkett, who's also in the Q&A, just said, hey, you're invited to go to Gold Butte. She's our regional coordinator for Gold Butte for the Nevada State Stewardship Program. And she
right.
knows that place better than anybody else. So it's totally worth going out with her.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we'll do it. We will do it. That sounds good.
We have people typing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So for the site stewards, just so you know, I know in Northern Nevada, Art came to our annual potluck. And in Southern Nevada, he's also going to come to our annual potluck and our Las Vegas stewardship training at some point. So that way he'll meet you guys as over time, I'm sure slowly meet everybody.
Best rock art ever. That's right.
Justin says, take Michelle up on the offer. Gold Butte has the best rock art ever.
I will, absolutely.
And he wants to go.
I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. All right.
Justin DeMeo used to be the Las Vegas field office archaeologist and is now with the Bureau of Reclamation. But so he knows Gold Butte really well.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. All right. How are we looking here? I'm not in a hurry, but yeah, I want to make sure we get everyone in. And this, you said this will be recorded and posted, correct? Okay, cool. Because yeah, I wanted to get a little more personal and all, just so people can kind of get familiar with who they're stuck with, at least for the time being. Yeah.
Any other questions or anything? There's a lot of thanks for presenting. I think that people really enjoyed your presentation. I know I did. I learned a lot.
Well, thank you. Thank you. All right, and we're almost at time. Hopefully we gave people their time and money's worth, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. If anybody else has anything left to say, otherwise, I think we're going to wrap up.
Well, again, thank you for doing this too, Samantha, and for organizing all this and everyone. And I really appreciate it. This is an important series. It's nice. It's a really nice resource.